welcome back to the morning after. We have a special guest in studio today. I would say she's like the OG NFL mom.
Oh, I love it. Yeah.
Right? Because unfortunately, Margaret, we're old in this game.
How many years is this now?
Oh,
Matthew?
16.
This is 16th year.
Yes.
Yeah, but she's been dealing with this shit since he was a prodigy child.
I know, but you know what? I was thinking about it this year of it being his 16th year, and I thought, oh my gosh, I was thinking of his life from birth to 16 when he gets his car. And that seems like a lifetime of all the progression of crawling, walking, running, baseball, everything. And that was like a lifetime. And when I think that's where we are in NFL.
That's so crazy to think about.
It really kind of blew my mind.
Does it blow your mind that he has now lived outside of Dallas longer than shorter than he's lived? What did I just say?
You're saying
I know
he's
what
spent
you're saying.
18 years
Outside
in
of
Dallas.
Dallas.
His life outside of Dallas
Does
has
that-
been, yes.
Longer than his life
And,
there.
you know, the people of Dallas don't like
I know.
But he's always,
Especially
he's
Highland
always
Park.
a Texas boy at heart.
So
Texas is always...
it's really,
Yeah.
you know.
It's interesting. Like, he said that to me, and I was going, wait, really? And he was like, think about that. Like, we have spent now more time, which just comes with age, right? And I think it's honestly something I'm so grateful for, which I've talked about, is the fact that I got out of Georgia. Because I do think if I didn't get out of Georgia, I would be, living a great life most likely, but experiencing things outside of what you've grown up with, I think is important.
Right.
It broadens your mind. Now, you did a great job of doing that with Matthew.
He's a curious dude.
Yeah, but here's one thing, and this is Margaret. I feel like we didn't, but Margaret's Matthew's mother. And you are a very curious person. She's very knowledgeable. You have a lot of knowledge about a lot of different things, which I think in turn has made Matthew a very curious human being, which I love because, again, when it comes to parenting our children, I am like, this, kind of like my mom did, and he makes it more, I would say more fun because he encourages them to be curious. So I love that. I love that, again, you've raised such a good man, Matthew, or Hank and I were talking about it. Going into the NFL, his life changes. I mean, as we all know.
Right.
But he has remained, and you know this, everyone in this room knows this, the same exact person. And I attribute that to him, but I really attribute it to you and John, you raising him in such a way. So we have a segment on this podcast called How Do You Parent This? And what I kind of would like to know is, how do you parent a child growing up knowing he has extreme talent? I also want to know, real quick, when did you know he was really good?
Was there moment of time?
I would think that, John, Matthew's dad, who was a coach and is a great athlete, he would be able to say, oh, well, I know he's going to play at this level. And we had such a great group of athletes that were his age, and I just knew he had so much fun. And whatever ball he picked up, he seemed to excel in.
Yeah.
And he had great teams. They loved to play together. I don't ever remember saying, oh, you're going to be a star.
Was there a moment when he was in high school, though, where you were starting to feel like, okay, these scouts are popping in, like he's getting a lot of attention?
Yes. I was at maybe a 9th grade game and way out of town, and went downstairs to get a Coke, and I heard the cops talking that were at the game. They said, there's a kid out there that can throw a pass so many yards. And
you're like,
have you seen him? Have you seen him? And I'm like, oh, they're talking about Matthew.
Yeah.
Oh
And we would go, but at baseball too, I would have, when he was younger, like the club teams, they would come up and say, have you ever thought of him being on a club team? And I'd be like, he's in 3rd grade. Or something. And so that kind of thing. And then I remember in high school, college coach came in and like stopped on the corner and talked to him at the high school. I think it was sort of a meet this head coach. I'm not going to say who it was because I'm not sure he was supposed to be talking to him. But Matthew came home and said, well, he told me I'm going to be playing on Sundays. And I went,
what's on Sundays?
What's on Sunday? You're like, we got to go to church.
And and so, and his eyes were,
So I would say, like, you knew, I mean, like, clearly if you knew, but you were also being told at this point, your son's really good. And he's getting a lot of this attention, and he's realizing he's getting attention too. So this is where my question comes, like, how do you parent that to
check his
encourage him?
Yeah.
But also humble him at the same time so he doesn't get this, because he has zero ego. This guy has zero ego, which I love about him. But how would you say you kind of did that? Because I feel like that's parenting.
Well, I think every parent, you do parent different children differently for what their needs are or for what they excel at. And I wanted to make sure he was always loving it and having fun, because there's nothing more miserable than being on a field and seeing some child that doesn't want to be there. And you see that more when they're younger.
Yeah.
And I feel like the parents are living their dreams out by, this could be the star, and the child would rather be in music or something. So encouraging that. So I knew he always loved that. And, being a good sport is definitely always important, but you do see kids that have somehow been told that they are like the best, and they know that they're it. And we just never talked about that.
And like I was saying, you have so much knowledge of other things too, that I'm sure when you talked to him, it was rarely about sports. It was more about the arts and stuff like that. Margaret's very creative. She was involved with the Designer magazine in Dallas for a long time. But I just feel like when it comes to kids now, and what you're saying is so true, you see the parents trying to push the kids to live out their dreams, right?
Yes.
And it turns out it feels like, and when you see other moms of professional athletes now coming out and being on podcasts and stuff like that, it feels like they are the ones that were the most laid back and look at their kids now. And so here's what it's interesting to me. Like, we push as parents with these sports, and I am guilty of it. But we push, and turns out most likely your child is not going to be a professional athlete.
Well, I mean, it's not even 1%ers.
Yes. So why not let them enjoy what they do?
Yeah.
And go ahead.
I remember when maybe he was, 2 or 3, and going to the doctor and talking about fine motor skills and does he play with Legos? I'm like, no. And I went and bought Legos. Could care less about something minute but give him a ball and he would go out. We have pictures of him dribbling at 2 years old, and we'd take him to the pool, and he couldn't really swim well. I mean, I think this was 2 years old or 2.5 or 3. We were in Atlanta.
Yeah.
And we look up, and he is on the diving board saying he wants to do a flip. Oh. And so we go tearing, swimming out there to catch him, since he and he tries to do a flip, and that was kind of his signature thing when we moved to Dallas when he was 3.5 or almost 4. And he would go into a family party and run in and do a flip into the pool and
hopefully swim out.
Yeah, then we taught him how to swim.
It's really interesting though, because John was a swimmer and coached swimming at FSU. So is he like? I mean, I just know in my world, like, I mean, I was a swimmer. How can you not swim? Like, what's going on here? Yeah. But it seems like, I mean, was he just like, okay, well, my kid just wants to jump off the diving board and maybe he won't be a swimmer. Yeah. I honestly feel like parents struggle with that. I struggle with that.
Yeah.
Like,
you want them to be good at the sport that you love.
Yeah. And like things like that. But it's funny you bring up fine motor skills, because anytime I ask him to help me put on a necklace, button to button, he's like, I hate tiny things. I just hate tiny things. So,
but give him a football and
give him something
swing it and not even look at it.
Yeah.
Was there these are all the things in my head. Was there a moment when he was in college when you were like, oh, he's going to the NFL? Like, when did that happen?
Probably, I remember talking to him, and it might have been his senior year in high school before he was leaving for college. And I didn't want him to go early.
Okay.
And we had a little scene at a local restaurant in Highland Park where he told me he wanted to leave high school, graduate early. And
go to Georgia.
He had a little piece of paper with it written out that he had gone to his counselor of how it could happen, which was a summer school thing. And he shoved it over to me sort of like a car salesman would say,
here's the price.
How do you like this price?
Yeah.
And I started crying. And
now why?
Well, because I wasn't ready. And Paige had just left for Georgia. She's a year ahead of him.
Yeah.
So she had just left. And here he is saying,
I want to leave.
Had she left yet? Maybe she was still, this was before she had left, but I knew that she would be leaving. And then I just wasn't ready. I wanted him to have his whole year. And then his counselor called me and said, I think we have to have a meeting. And we did. And I was not happy about, and she was all for it,
for him to go early. Yeah. And the purpose of that, obviously, is
and she said, I needed counseling.
Okay. Okay. All right.
She's like, why don't you come once a week?
That's probably true, because it was, I think about it already, and I'm sure you do too. I think about that moment when your child leaves.
Yes.
And what that's like. So that's interesting. So your emotion in it wasn't that you were scared of, like, him going to the NFL or all that. It was more about, like, my kid. It was about my kid leaving the house.
And I wasn't ready. And so he left and went back to class, and I cried more. And that's when she told me perhaps I needed counseling about it. And I was leaving the school with, a big red nose and teary eyes, and I ran into one of his football player friends who was actually, and, he goes, what's the matter? And I'm like, Matthew wants to leave early and whatever. He goes, I know. And he goes, I've got to tell you, he's one of the most competitive kids I've ever met, guys I've ever met. And you got to let him go. This was a senior. And he just looked at me and said, you got to let him go. He's so competitive. He's got to go.
Yeah, use it.
Go.
And this was his junior year then.
Yeah, I guess it was because we had to do summer school.
And then he went to Georgia.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think it's pretty incredible that he took the initiative himself, because, again, as I'm thinking about you telling me this story, like, if you were to put that in my family, I feel like my parents might have been the ones going to the counselor, like, all right, how do we get them there early so they can prepare?
Go. And I think in his mind, he was like, if I'm there at spring training,
I got a better shot
I've got a better shot at starting. Because he was kind of down on the list of if he would start or not. And
he had already committed to Georgia
for another high ankle sprain and something he probably, wouldn't have played his freshman year. But
right. Now, were you and John really hoping that he would go to FSU?
No.
He
did go. We did send him one summer to FSU's baseball and football camps.
Okay.
And, but we had sort of been around when it was Bobby Bowden. It was great. And Bobby had kind of gone down and or left, and it wasn't the same program. And Rick was Bowden's, I guess, offensive coordinator.
Oh, I didn't know
and
that.
Matthew wanted to play in the SEC and all of that. So it was sort of like, okay, we're fine. But I do remember, talking about parenting and this whole NFL thing, and are we all really putting all these eggs in just one little basket and saying, you've got to, what is going to be your plan B?
Yeah.
And what are you thinking of, if you weren't throwing a football? What would it be? Would it be, do you want to think about law? Do you want to think about business? Do you want to think? And I know the stare of when he just kind of looks at you like,
there isn't a plan B.
There's not going to need to be a plan B.
I mean, he just stared at me like, and I went, oh my God. I said, there's no plan B, is there? And he went, so that's when I knew that that's what he wanted.
Yeah.
And he was going to make it happen.
That's what he wanted.
And at what point in the college life then do you realize that, yes, this is happening? He is going to go to the NFL.
we would be leaving games, and scouts and agents would come and approach us in the parking lot and try to talk to us. People were calling us on the phone. And these were mostly these were like agents.
Yeah. It's like that Jordan movie, Air.
I haven't seen it.
Oh, it's so good.
Yeah.
But it's like that. Like they knew he was a prodigy, and like agents showed up at like their house.
Right.
Would just like leave a note on the door, or like call them, or like, you know, they're making their move. Yeah.
And one time, and when he was in high school, and we were in the family room, and one of these, he wasn't really a scout. I think he was like a high school reporter for football, and I heard Matthew going, I don't know. Oh, I need a name. I need a nickname, like you know, the cannon. What are you talking? And Matthew's dying laughing, like playing along with it, like, are you kidding me? Oh so I mean, those kind of things happened, and
you started to realize that this was really going to happen.
Yeah.
I'm going to hit you all with a quick fact real quick. So a new study has come out about the first new nutritional deficiency in 75 years called cellular fragility syndrome, caused by a lack of the essential fatty acid C15. As many as 1 in 3 people worldwide may have low C15 levels, and cellular fragility syndrome, which, get this, can accelerate aging-related breakdown and impair metabolic, liver, and heart health. So how do we combat this? Well, Fatty 15 is here, and Fatty 15 is made purely of C15 powder derived from plants, so it's also vegan. It's oxidation resistant, and also Fatty 15 has 3 times more cellular benefits than omega-3s and fish oils. So if you've been taking those, switch to Fatty 15, because this is the only ingredient in Fatty 15. It is 100% pure. And get this, it works in multiple ways. It repairs age-related damage to cells, protects them from future breakdown, boosts mitochondrial energy output, and activates pathways in the body that help regulate our sleep, mood, and natural repair mechanisms that support our overall health. So Fatty 15 is on a mission to replenish your C15 levels and restore your long-term health. You can get an additional 15% off their 90-day subscription starter kit by going to fatty15.com/morning and using the code morning at checkout. You could be the 1 in 3, guys. So if you're taking those fish oils, if you're taking omega-3s, take Fatty 15 instead. So again, that is fatty15.com/morning. I love that. I think it's interesting now, and I don't have any boys, and neither do you, so it's hard. But today's age, with everything that is known about football and the injuries that occur and what can happen, you know, to the head and stuff like that, now it's a little different with you, because obviously your kid made it to the top. But say Matthew played through high school and that was it. Because that's really is
the reality.
99% of people. And someone like, would you allow your kid to play football? Because I think this is a question moms are asking themselves a lot today, with knowing everything that you know.
I think you all know it's really hard about allowing, you know, when someone has that passion.
That's so true.
And they love it so much. We did not start him early in football. I mean, it seems early, but it was a Y football I think they started in like 5th grade, and it was flag. And nowadays you see them at 4 years old, and then we have a friend whose grandson is maybe 1st grade and playing on a club team. And I think Matthew would tell you that the longer you can wait, the better. But if you're going to have just a few years to play, you know, maybe. So I think that's interesting that Matthew feels that way, to delay it. And I'm sure that is probably 90% about injury.
Right. Yeah.
And
I agree with you. And I think too, like I lost my train of thought, but the way, because we think about too watching Matthew, and I want to get into you watching him play this sport. But you see these little kids out there in their tackle and their helmets, and it's the cutest thing ever. But you're also kind of going, is it needed right now? Why are we not playing? Because it wasn't at 7-on-7, like flag. He said something about, like, it wasn't tackle. It was very, which, again, with everything we know, you think you'd see more of that and less of the Pop Warner tackle situations happening. Luckily, they're on grass for the most part, so we can be happy about that.
And they've got those great helmets.
Yeah.
You know,
hopefully
Henry
fitted
is playing, but
so
it's flag.
Yeah, so your grandson is playing.
Yes, but it's flag, and he's in 2nd grade. But
because you're learning if you're gonna play, you're learning the game. It's not like you're gonna make, like, what are we doing? You're not gonna stand out by tackling when you're in 2nd grade,
right,
you know. So it's very interesting.
You're kind of learning to love it. That's what I want parents now to know. It's not like, are we winning? Do you hate to lose?
Are you enjoying yourself?
No, you're trying to teach them to love it and want to go back and have fun playing and learn from it and learn how to play better. And it's not necessarily, you know,
about the
winning.
Yeah. Well, this is really good that we're talking right before the soccer game because I'm getting a lot of feed. I'm getting a lot. I'm taking it all in.
I think we were, and the parents on a group were louder when they were real little.
It's almost like you want them to hear you.
Yourself.
Yeah.
Kind of.
Like encouraging.
But you know, when you're sitting there, catch that ball, you know, or whatever, pass it to them and whatever. And as they get older, you're kind of like, let them go, figure it out. And then they have the coaches and all that.
I do feel like sometimes when they're younger, they're learning the sport. So, and sometimes you're like, no, go get the ball. Like, it's like teaching in a way, but also maybe.
Absolutely. But you've heard different.
Yes.
I mean,
for sure.
You hear
craziness
differently. And
youth sports, it's a whole thing in itself these days.
Do you have a memory, if you have to think back on his 16 years, from the draft to playing in Detroit, first game in LA, winning the Super Bowl, is there one, like, when you think about the emotion of all of this, is there one particular memory that stands out that you just will never, ever be able to let go of?
Well, when you talk about the first game in LA, and, you know, crazy time with the trade, expectations of
so
what they
hard.
were expecting, and that game when he started letting the passes fly and they way downfield, and it was like, this is what he does.
Yeah.
This is what he does, and he was so happy.
So fun.
And it was.
Would you say that was the game that you were most nervous at? The first LA game, because there was so much talk about him, even more than him just being a first NFL game. There was so much talk about that trade and what he was going to do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think I was nervous, and we were really nervous the first playoff game in LA.
Yeah.
Because there hadn't been a playoff win in Detroit.
Yes.
And that was big news.
That was like,
gosh,
can he get over that hump?
He hasn't, you know, there's no Super Bowl, there's no playoff game. And that was when I remember we had flown up, John and Paige, and we were, before the game, all like, oh my gosh.
Yeah.
And it was like, okay, we know about the elephant in the room. So everybody just calm down and we'll go in there. But I remember being really nervous then.
That's funny. I wouldn't think that, but that would be,
that was like the big, this is the pressure. If we can get this one down, then we can go to the next one. That one and done sort of thing. Yeah. And you're like, we've got to win this game.
Okay. I will say one memory, like a big memory I have with you watching Matthew play was in Detroit. And when he got hit and with his shoulder, and that clip is everywhere, right? And we're sitting there and we're going, I go, wait, is he going back in? And
that's the one where he's like, hello,
yes.
let's go.
And he's like, they called a timeout, let me the fuck back in, like whatever.
Yeah.
And I remember I see him jogging back on the field. I look at Margaret, I'm like, is he going back in? And I remember you just going like this, just like burying your head. Because I can only imagine being the mom. Like, it's my husband. I love him so much. But if one of my children was out there, I would have
when you see them hurt, and I saw him, my eyes weren't off of him. I was like, oh God, he's laying down. Oh my God, he's, the hit.
Yeah.
And going back in, and we know him, it's like, give me the ball, give me the ball, give me the ball from Course Line.
Yeah.
He.
I'm obsessed.
And I also thought, okay, I know he's hurt, but then I thought, if you can't do it, you're really letting your team down. We have 1 second to go to win this game. And the other quarterback had put on the helmet, and Matthew heard the timeout, and he's like, I can go back in. And I thought, well, you're either going to be a hero or a heel. Oh. And
the outcome of that game, which is still one of the most legendary games.
And you're right, Kelly. We had to go through at least 4 more seasons when on the jumbotrons in Detroit before the game would begin, and it would be part of the hype.
Yeah.
And watching that, I mean, people were screaming with joy and clapping, and we were like, "Ooh!" I mean,
reliving it.
It still would make me. I would have to hide my head. That hit.
I know.
And
like
hearing
the hit heard
him,
around the world.
and hearing him, kind of whimper of like, "Ooh," and I'm like,
again,
please stop showing this.
Yeah. If that was my child, this is why I asked about allowing like if you did it again, because I just don't think I would have it in me. It's legit the person you love most. I mean, your children. I mean, yes, you love your spouse, but like the people you want to protect.
Remember when we went to Jacksonville? No, we didn't. Pensacola. When he had his operation on that shoulder.
Yep.
And I thought he looked scared going in, and we were like, okay, we need a big scar. You just have a couple little holes in your knee. We need a good scar, and all this stuff. And then I think
I know. I'm sorry. I was in nursing school.
Told that in nursing school tells Dr. Greatness.
Yes.
Dr. Greatness.
Dr. Andrews.
Dr. Andrews. I'd really like to observe. And I will never forget this. They got him in, and they said, okay, now you can come around. We go in this special room. There is a glass wall, and on a table, Matthew is laid out. They had that trainer man, lovely man from Detroit.
Yes.
He was standing on a box.
Observing, like watching.
At Matthew's head, like this.
Watching.
And then Dr. Andrews turns around and takes this wire, and he's like,
showing
this is what we're putting in. And I think I almost fainted.
Yeah, it was not good.
You were like, and he's like, I thought somebody went down. I think I just kind of went down. And I also felt like when you're talking about with your child, that whole setup of observing this, and when that trainer was watching him, I just felt like, oh, that's his piece of property. That's his.
See, I didn't even think about it that
his
way.
money man.
He's not
on the
thinking
table,
like a person.
And he was sent from you do sent from Detroit to
make sure
the
equipment is going to work.
That everything was okay, and I mean, he's lovely, and I was glad he was there, but it just the whole setup to me was like, oh, this is not my baby.
Yeah. It didn't feel like
this
it was
is not. It's not like when you take your child to the pediatrician.
You felt like you were watching like a piece of machinery almost.
Yes.
Like they were working on a machine being fixed.
Yes.
Yeah. Wow.
And I will say that was tough, and I felt horrible after doing it because.
And you observed.
Yes, we all did. The way for a little bit. The way they handle people when they are unconscious, and I think just like getting their body in the place that they need it. I mean, there's arms flat.
It's not delicate. It's not delicate.
He was out, and he looked. I mean, it was vulnerable, and he is laid out. And they waited till they got it cut and all. We didn't have to watch that, but it was, I guess, when he was. And
I'm so sorry.
And what year would this have been, for context?
That was after his second year, right?
Mm-hmm. Second year in Detroit.
Because he did his knee the first year, his shoulder the second year.
Okay.
And then what pissed me off too is we're obviously like there's a lot going on. we're all going through this situation, and then media's coming out calling him a China doll, that he's fragile, that he's this, and I know you like that, and it pissed him off too.
Yeah.
Because if you're getting pummeled to the ground every play, eventually something's gonna give, and that's what was happening.
Oh, and they would say maybe you should go to like a school where you learn how to kind of tumble or do something, or you know,
gymnastics
where you can
learn how to get
learn
hit.
how to fall and learn how to.
But I really think if you ask anyone in Detroit, yes, not a playoff win, not a Super Bowl, the legacy of Matthew Stafford is, man, that dude was tough.
I know, but
like there's not
well, that drives us crazy.
I know.
It has driven me crazy forever, because I will know that something is not right, and then I know he's not telling me everything. And you know, he will, because he wants to play. He wants to be out there, and
I know.
It's just so hard when you know that.
He would never ever, we would be together after games, and there was never a conversation about his injuries, and then a couple days later I'd be like, wait, the paper said his back is broken. And then I would text him and I'd be like, bro, you can't, we're laying around watching TV and you're saying you're a little sore. If your back is broken, your back. He's like, it's no big deal.
All right, guys, we all know how important water is, and just drinking water and being hydrated. But a lot of our water is contaminated. In fact, 45% of U.S. tap water is contaminated by PFAS. And what are those? It's just man-made chemicals. So what do? Well, we have fallen in love with this house with the Aqua True purifiers. We have the over-the-counter type, but they do have versions that you can do under sink options where it can connect Wi-Fi, and also you can do mineral boost options within that. But we just have the over-the-counter one. I'm not kidding. My kids love the taste of the water. Actually, so do I, because sometimes tap water can taste a little funky. AquaTrue purifiers use a 4-stage reverse osmosis purification process, and the over-the-counter ones, they don't need installation or plumbing, but their purifiers remove 15 times more contaminants. So AquaTrue comes with a 30-day money-back guarantee and even makes a great gift. Today, my listeners will receive 20% off any AquaTrue purifier. Just go to aquatrue.com. That's AQUATRU.com and enter code MORNINGAFTER at checkout. That's 20% off any AquaTrue water purifier when you go to aquatrue.com and use the promo code MORNINGAFTER, MORNINGAFTER. All right, guys, my kids' vitamins rock, and it's Hiya. I've talked about them a lot, but I'm not kidding. My kids love these vitamins, and I know they're packed with so much good stuff. Not only that, but most children's vitamins are filled with 5 grams of sugar. And, you know, that can contribute to a variety of health issues. But Hiya is made with 0 sugar and 0 gummy crap, but yet it tastes good and they love it. It's non-GMO. It's supercharged with 15 essential vitamins and minerals, including vitamin D, B12, C, zinc, folate, and many others. It has 12 organic fruits and vegetables. I mean, it really is so good. So we've worked out a special deal with Hiya for their best-selling children's vitamin. You can receive 50% off your first order. To claim this deal, you must go to hiyahealth.com/morning. This deal is not available on their regular website. Go to hiyahealth.com/morning and get your kids the full body nourishment they need to grow into healthy adults. We talk about our fails as parents on this podcast a lot, because I think it's important to show failure in general. But not that this was a failure on your part, because I hated that I just said that. But Matthew has told a story many times on this podcast about New York and his first time visiting. And I would like to get from your point of view, because in my mind I'm going, this is your fault. Somehow, not yours, Matthew.
Well, part of it is about this curiosity. Like he will, you know, we were like one day going, where is he in the neighborhood? And we had heard the fire truck, and he comes running out of the house, and he goes, he just choked. And
of the house that the fire truck was
that
at.
I didn't know who lived in this house. And I mean, he would, and then he get rich quick scheme that he had when maybe 2nd or 3rd grade, where somebody posted that they had lost their pet, and he thought, and there was a reward, so he became a pet detective, and for about 2 days, and he would keep going to the house to tell the woman where he checked, and I think finally he didn't catch the dog, but I think she gave him like $5 for his effort and things, and he was just curious. And anyway, we had gone to New York with my mom. My dad had passed away. It was the first Thanksgiving, and she went to New York a lot, and so we tickets to Lion King and Radio City, and we had some friends from St. Pete that lived on the Upper West Side. But the night before the parade, said, come to our place. And we walk up and down the streets, and you see all the helium float balloons being blown up.
And how old is he now?
I think he's in 5th grade.
5th grade, okay.
4th or 5th grade.
Okay.
And the streets are packed. I hear now with COVID, you are in a one line, but chestnuts roasting on an open fire. Packed streets, the big, gigantic semi trucks with these balloons going up. And you kind of weave up and down, and streets filled with kids.
Yeah.
I mean, with mostly adults, actually.
Yeah.
And so great. And then that moment when, you look around and you're like, oh my God.
He's gone.
Where is he? And it was, packed with people. And we're looking and we're screaming his name, which of course you couldn't hear.
Right.
And it wasn't that long, but all of a sudden we look up the street, and up on an old light post in New York, they had a little level here. I guess he had gotten someone to lift him up. And he's swinging off the light pole.
Oh, waving.
Waving. Like, oh my God. How smart. How smart was
so smart.
Did
you go over that? Like, hey, if you get lost, this is what
climb
you
up
do.
on a light pole.
I don't know. I mean,
no.
To be honest, it's brilliant.
No, and it wasn't. It wasn't that scare like if he was 3 years old.
Yeah.
But still, we're in New York City.
And how long was it? Like, it probably felt like 2 days, but it was probably a couple minutes.
Yeah, probably about 5 or so.
That's all.
That's a long
like 5 hours.
I mean, we knew he couldn't have gone that far.
Yeah.
But that was.
You're wondering if somebody grabbed him. I mean, a million things are going through your head.
That's honestly my biggest fear.
Yeah.
Is like losing one, especially now because the world's so weird. And I'm not saying it wasn't weird back then. I'm sure we just didn't hear about it as much.
Yeah.
But you fear that so much with your kids, and I feel like with 4 running around, I'm going.
I can't imagine.
Most likely, I'm going to lose one eventually.
Yeah.
And I did. I lost Hunter at Universal now it was like 3 minutes, but I panicked.
Yeah.
And like I know, I could not imagine. Like it makes me a little emotional thinking about it. But the fear that you have when you become a parent is that you are in charge of bringing this child up and taking care of them and making sure they're safe. And that's your biggest job when you become a mom or a dad is raising your kids.
Absolutely.
And the fear of 1, failing, and 2, losing them. Because I got lost too. Now, as a kid, you don't care. Yeah. But like, there's just so many fears when you become parents. And I think now you see it more because of social media and things. Like you see things happening to kids, so your fear goes through the roof.
And where do you draw the line? And it's so hard now of letting them go and learn and explore and discover. Be curious without the helicoptering, which I think is so dangerous.
I
where you are controlling how they speak or how they,
every decision they make.
They cannot grow that way. Yeah. And so
where
it's
is the
hard
line?
of where you let them be who they're going to be, explore, and
it's checking the time.
I know.
It's just hard.
Yeah, I can imagine. Like that's something I'm very much struggling with.
And let each one be who they are. Not compare.
No, not compare. And not group them together. It's really hard not to group them together.
So
for me, it's so
hard.
Well, it's also you have 4 girls, so it's easier for you to group them. She had a boy and a girl that had different interests.
But they are wildly different.
Yeah.
They really are.
And I'm seeing that more and more with them, and it's so darling.
Especially
I told
with the twins.
you last time when you said, okay, go up and throw on something that you want to wear to dinner. Where before when it was little and everybody dressed alike and all this. Yeah. And they came down, and I think I told you, I said, I loved how they came down and all different little styles and what they were thinking. It was like, oh my gosh, this is so great.
You really see that they're individual.
Yes.
You're already doing that though with sport. It would be very easy for most parents with kids around the same age to just be like, hey, from 8 to 10, you're all going to gymnastics.
I do that. What do you mean?
I understand, but they also have their individual things that they do. I'm saying, like, it would be very easy to say, like, everyone's doing the same thing every day, period, good night, goodbye.
I think that will develop more as they get...
I agree. I want them to try everything. That's what Matthew and I always say. We want them to try everything and figure out what they love. Yeah. Whether that's music, art, gymnastics, whatever, tennis, I don't care. But figure it out, and then we start dividing up. But right now, I'm like trying to shove them in all different things and see which ones take. But the problem is they're all competitive, like your son. So if one's better at one, the other ones are like, no, I want to get better, which is great. Yeah. But you also see there is potential of different things in different kids. Yes. And so that's because I'm like, okay, well, your potential in something is greater, but like, do you love it? Do you not love it? Because I know that's what leads, right? Yeah. Their love for it. And then you can say, well, okay, maybe we push a little harder in this because you can see the potential in it. You know, this month is all about giving thanks, and I really am thankful for my mama because she always keeps me in check, even at 35 years old. But someone we also tend to forget to thank is ourselves. And it's hard to remind ourselves that, you know, we're trying to do our best to make sense of everything in this crazy world. And it's not easy. Here's my thing. This is where therapy really has helped me kind of get to know myself better and thank myself and take care of myself better. You know, as a mom too, we tend to put ourselves last on the list, but if we're not good, then to be honest, no one's good around us. If you're struggling or if you think you need to talk to someone, BetterHelp is a great option. It is so easy and convenient, and they have incredible therapists on there. So if it's something you've been thinking about, let the gratitude flow with BetterHelp. Visit BetterHelp.com/morningafter today to get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/morningafter. All right, guys, this is not talked about enough, and if you're a male listener, I apologize, but it's vaginal health. And it's important. And this is why I love O Positive. They are on a mission to deliver innovative, clinically backed, fun-to-take products that support women from their first period to well beyond their last. One product in general, their Urovaginal Probiotic. It is clinically studied probiotic strains and prebiotic fibers target issues at the core and support overall vaginal health. It supports healthy vaginal odor, vaginal pH, vaginal flora, and yeast balance. Listen, I know this is kind of tough to hear, but it's important. We have got to keep our vaginas healthy, okay? Uro has over 5,000 five-star reviews and is top-selling product on Amazon and at Target, so women are after this. They want a healthy vagina. Am I right? Take proactive care of your vaginal health and head to opositive.com/morningafter at checkout for 25% off your first purchase. That's opositive.com/morningafter for 25% off. And I know that for me, being better at something makes it more fun. Yeah. Like if you're not like that for me and for my life, like if I wasn't good at something, yes, I would try harder. But at the same time, if I was naturally good at something else, I would just gravitate that way.
I'm really curious about this.
And then we got to do rapid fire.
Real quick. So Matthew has said that he is very loving being a girl dad. Was there a part of you that's like, damn, I wish there would have been a boy in there to see whether this would have, you know what I mean? Like, were you thinking like maybe there's going to be a second generation football prodigy here if he had a son?
No.
Yeah.
No, and that the whole thing is, my idea of Matthew isn't a football player.
Yeah.
It's, all the, the growing up that, who he is, and it's not, oh, I sure do wish we had another pro athlete. Yeah. I don't. But I mean, it would have been, it is what it is. Yeah. I mean, you can't. And I think I came from all girl family, and, it's great to experience both. But, each child is different. Yeah. You're experiencing 4 different things with 4 different girls.
Yeah. Who could be professional athletes of their own and whatever
or not. They don't have to.
If they want
which
to.
Is great. I mean, I think God was doing us a service in that, giving us 4 girls. For honestly, not, and it's not. I think Matthew would have been a great boy dad, but I don't think I would have been a good boy mom.
Yeah.
Because I am competitive, and I would have probably pressured that little boy and been not my best. So I think God gave us girls for both of our benefits.
Yeah.
Yes.
All right, a few questions from the viewers. First question coming up here is the most trouble that Matthew has ever gotten in when he was a kid. Do you remember a moment where he got in big trouble?
Well, there may have been an unfortunate situation where he went to a friend's house and the older brother may have been having a party.
Yeah.
And maybe the police came in when he had, and this was the best part, I think it was like a mimosa.
Okay.
And we got in a little trouble for that.
Yeah.
And I remember my mother going like, a mimosa in Highland Park. So, I mean, that was, that was serious trouble.
Yeah.
And, there were a lot of party breakups, but he would have an escape route sometime where they would, run it. But
sure,
that was something that was true.
Yes,
there were consequences.
Okay, up next. Listeners really want to know your first impression of Kelly. You can just tell me.
I remember it was after the awards banquet, I think.
Mm-hmm.
And you were at the bar, and she was adorable.
In Georgia.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I was like adorable, cute, tomboyish, but fun. And
were you at this point thinking this is somebody Matthew really, really likes and I need to invest in this, or this is a girl that he's bringing on this day?
I knew.
Just be real. Be real.
No, I knew you all had been dating.
Yes.
And it was like, oh, I want you to meet Kelly.
Okay.
I knew that he was interested in her and liked her a lot, but I just hadn't.
So that's a positive, cute,
and
bubbly.
I was terrified.
Yeah, well, I bet.
I was terrified.
Yeah.
And you are such a presence when you walk in the room. You got this big Texas hair.
Yeah.
And here I am. I was like, oh, man. And obviously introducing me at a time where I was like, thanks a lot. But I remember that moment because I told my parents, I was like, I just don't know. I don't know if she liked, but it was a bar too.
Yeah.
Yes.
And again, in this moment, like, yes, we were dating, but I also knew, I didn't know what our future held. So I was kind of just like,
Yeah.
Yeah. But I remember you walking in and I was going, oh man, I just want to say a prayer for myself real quick.
Yeah.
But you were so nice. So it was easy.
Real last question. A quality that Kelly and Matthew both possess that you would like to see the girls inherit or mimic?
Wow, that's a tough question.
I mean, that could be so many things.
Yeah.
That is.
I would say I like Matthew's cool demeanor because it's very rare that people he's not reactionary. Yeah. I'm a reactionary person. So he is not. Same.
I do like that. I thought we were doing like a common thing.
Oh,
or either one of them. Yeah.
I think
one or the other.
I do love how I think you all work together well. And I think there's always where you see couples where like, oh, well, he doesn't do that or she doesn't do this. And I think you all really work together well for the girls. And it's
a team.
It's a team. Yeah. It really is. And there's the love there. It's like, okay, this is our love for each other and then for the girls. And it's, I think as together, that's what's so great about you two. And you can really tell that you work together and you support each other. It's not, I do this better, you do this better. It's you work together on your strengths, and it really shows.
I love that.
I do too, because I do feel you see a lot of couples who are competitive with each other in that fact.
Yeah.
Of well, I had this day. Well, I had this day.
Yeah.
And here I am sometimes not able to complain about my back because I understand that he's getting
yes.
exhausted. But he'll be like, no, how's your back?
Yeah.
Like there's not, which I do love, and I want to pass that on to our kids of like, you don't have to compete with each other.
Right.
Love each other.
Yeah.
Be a team with it. Like you'll go farther if you do that rather than, hit each other down and bring each other. So Thank you so much. And thank you for coming on.
Margaret Stafford, you've done good.
And you have done really good.
Not that we put this on, but should we discuss that before that first game in LA? We came up with Rayuda.
Oh, yeah, Rayuda.
Yeah.
We came up with Rayuda at dinner.
You came up with Rayuda.
You did.
Margaret came up with Rayuda.
I don't know if I want to claim
okay,
that,
never mind. We came up with Rayuda.
Maybe I did, but we were at that table at a restaurant the night before. Matthew wasn't there. And we're like, I think we need something that we yell, or what do we say, or
bringing it back to the reporter. We needed a slogan,
Yeah, we've got to come up with what we're gonna cheer.
I love it. Yeah, I love it. Well, we do use that on timeout, but for TMA, we are gonna wrap this thing up, and you know how we wrap it up?
How?
Go ahead. You can do it. Yeah. She doesn't know.
Splash.
Have a splash.
Yeah, have a splash.
Oh, let's go get a splash.
Yeah, I like that.
I'm ready for a splash.
Yes, let's do it.
Make a splash.
All right, make a splash. Y'all have a good week.